Okay, for this for this lesson, we will be talking about propaganda and bias. The goals for this lesson are for you to be able to identify techniques that are used by media to influence people's behaviors and opinions. You should be able to define bias and stereotyping by the end of this lesson, and you will be able to describe how the media uses that bias and stereotyping to influence people's opinions and behaviors. Okay, so in this unit you are going to be, or this lesson, you're going to be learning about propaganda techniques such as things like bandwagon testimonials and fear appeals that are used to shape how we think or act. And then also bias and this is when information is presented in a one-sided way, while stereotyping oversimplifies groups of people, okay? So basically, there's a lot of bias used in multimedia, and even like things like ChatGPT uses a lot of bias because it only learns from sometimes one-sided opinions, okay? And being aware of these things helps us to think critically when we are actually watching this media. So it's important to remember that anything that you see on TV, you see in their social media, you hear through radio, any of those things can be biased, and you need to make sure that you are checking the sources and researching just to make sure that that information is correct and that you have both sides of points of view on the issues and you make your own opinion from that. All right. We are going to watch a short video on propaganda.
First, let's talk about bias. Bias refers to the inclination or prejudice in favor of or against a particular person, group, or idea. It can manifest in various forms, such as the selection and presentation of news stories, the use of language and the framing of issues. Bias can be conscious or unconscious, and it can affect the way information is portrayed to the public. To identify bias, we need to be critical consumers of media. We can start by examining the sources of information and considering their potential biases. Look for diverse perspectives and sources that provide multiple viewpoints. Additionally, pay attention to the language used in news articles or reports. Loaded or emotionally charged language can indicate bias. Next, let's discuss symbolism. Symbolism refers to the use of symbols or images that represent ideas or concepts. In the realm of politics and media, symbols can be powerful tools to convey messages and evoke emotions. Political symbols can include flags, logos, colors, or even gestures and slogans. Symbols can have different meanings and interpretations depending on the context and the audience. For example, a flag can represent patriotism and unity for some, while for others it may symbolize oppression or division. It's important to critically analyze the use of symbols and consider the intended message and the potential impact on public opinion. Lastly, let's explore propaganda. Propaganda refers to the dissemination of biased or misleading information with the aim of shaping public opinion and influencing people's beliefs and actions. Propaganda often uses persuasive techniques such as emotional appeals, exaggeration, or misinformation to manipulate public perception. Propaganda can be found in various forms, including political advertisements, speeches, social media campaigns, or even news articles. It is essential to be aware of propaganda techniques and to critically evaluate the information presented to us. Ask yourself questions like, what is the purpose of this message? Are there any hidden agendas? Are there supporting facts or evidence? Now, let's apply these concepts to scenarios. Imagine you come across a news article about a political candidate. As you read the article, you notice that the language used portrays the candidate in a negative light, emphasizing their flaws and mistakes while downplaying their achievements. This could be an example of bias. In another scenario, imagine you see a political advertisement that uses patriotic imagery, such as the American flag and images of happy families, to convey a message of unity and strength. This is an example of symbolism, as the symbols are being used to evoke specific emotions and associations. Lastly, consider a social media post that presents misleading information about a current issue, exaggerating the negative consequences of a particular policy. This could be an example of propaganda, as the information is being manipulated to shape public opinion and influence people's beliefs. So, in conclusion, understanding bias, symbolism, and propaganda is crucial for being critical consumers of media and political communications. By analyzing information and recognizing these techniques, we can better evaluate the messages presented to us and make informed decisions. Remember, being aware of bias, symbolism, and propaganda allows us to think independently and form our own opinions based on accurate and reliable information. Okay, now I know you're going to go deeper in this standard in class, but hopefully now you feel a little more confident about the content.
Okay guys, it's time to practice. So remember that your goals for today are for you to be able to identify media techniques like propaganda and bias, and define and recognize that bias and stereotyping in multimedia, in any kind of media, okay? Make sure you're completing all the practice activities so that you're ready for the test at the end, and take notes during the lesson.